colleague from Abbotsford's private member's bill. So I've explained this before, but I'll say it again. A private member's bill is something a member puts forward for the House to decide on. And it's a pretty important private member's bill, as they all are, really, because they come from a place of passion. But this is Bill C-314, which is an act to amend the Criminal Code, Medical Assistance in Dying, which many of us know as MAID. This enactment amends the Criminal Code to provide that a mental disorder is not a grievous and irremediable medical condition for which a person could receive medical assistance in dying or MAID. Whereas Parliament considers it a priority to ensure that adequate supports are in place for the mental health of Canadians. Whereas Parliament considers that vulnerable Canadians should receive suicide prevention, counselling rather than access to medical assistance in dying. Whereas Parliament considers that Canada's medical assistance in dying regime risks normalizing assistant dying as a solution. Madam Speaker, the fact that we have to have a private member's bill to say this feels outrageous, and I have listened to other members in the House tonight, and I want to be very mindful of my tone. I can tell that this is an interesting debate, it's an emotional debate, but I really urge the members opposite who have said they're not going to support this to consider taking this to committee. There is so much more we need to study. How is this already not in legislation is my question. I'll tell you why. In December of 2021, the Senate added an amendment to Bill C-7 without any consultation. Without any study or discussion to add people with mental illness as eligible for MAID. This private member's bill is the only way currently we can protect those suffering from mental illness. This private member's bill is the only way for us parliamentarians to say to those watching that we believe your life matters, and it is our job to ensure we fight for you. Today might be awful, but none of us know what tomorrow will be. No one knows what is out there for you. The MAID Committee, which was created after the amendment was added, how backward is that, heard testimony from many experts, and I really want everyone to listen to this quote because it is the essence of this discussion. Dr. John Mayer, clinical psychiatrist and medical ethicist, who said, "Psychiatrists don't know and can't know who will get better and live decades of good life. Brain diseases are not liver diseases." And Madam Speaker, anyone who has dealt with somebody with a mental illness, a mental disorder, knows we haven't even scratched the surface of what we know. We don't know. I really want to read this letter into the record, and I have permission from a constituent who has been following the slippery slope of this Liberal government's extension of MAID. Dear Michelle, my name is Kayla. I'm going to be sending this letter to several MPs, but as you are my MP, I thought I should send this to you first. I'm very troubled by something that is going to be happening very soon in this country, and I hope you will listen to what I have to say. Overall, I'm a very healthy individual. I have a mental health condition, but it is my sole medical condition. However, I was mortified to discover last month that MAID, medical assistance in dying, will be available for people whose sole health condition is a mental health condition as of March 17, 2023. Now, we have since voted in this House, and that has been extended to 1 year from March 17th, so March 17th, 2024. However, this is still in place, and this letter is still very pertinent. She goes on to say, persons who suffer from mental health conditions suffer horribly. I know that. I have suffered with mine for nearly 12 years. Perhaps the most appalling things of all are that the law no longer requires a person's natural death to be reasonably foreseeable as an eligibility criterion for MAID. Government of Canada, 2021. And there is no obligation for a person or their healthcare practitioners to inform family members that if that person has requested or received MAID. CAMH 2022. I think you see this for what it is. I will be eligible to end my own life on the basis that I have an incurable mental illness. Let me give you a bit more background. I have 2 university degrees in biology and environmental science. I have a job that I love and I have held since a little while after I graduated. I have never failed to pay taxes, nor have I ever extended leave or gone on EI due to my mental illness, no matter how hard it gets. I have a family and friends that I love dearly, and they love me too. And yet now on my own government has deemed my life not worthy living. This isn't just unfair, this is monstrous. But it gets worse. What about those people who are in the same boat that I am medically, but are much, much worse off? They cannot pay their taxes because they cannot work. They have a substance addiction. They are veterans with PTSD. They are homeless because they cannot seem to fight off their demons. These are some of the most vulnerable people in our society, to say nothing of the mature minors, whatever on earth that means, that will be able to access MAID in the future if this doesn't stop. Make no mistake, this thing that we dress up with the nice name MAID is euthanasia of our most vulnerable people because they cannot contribute to society like others can. The fact that the government would offer to get them out of the way, in this way, just because the systems that the government put in place are failing them in an unspeakable evil. And she put in brackets, convince them that they should die. These are her words. I hope, Michelle, that you will do everything in your power as an MP, as I will do everything in my power as a citizen to abolish this law. I understand the federal government is seeking to push back the timing, which they did, as I said, likely because it has received so much criticism. I understand that it likely wasn't you that made any of the decisions for this law to go ahead, but I also understand that you are in more of a position to do something than many people are. I hope you will respond after reading this letter. Sincerely, Kayla. And I did respond to Kayla, and we had a very powerful conversation, and she gave me permission to share this letter. And I think one letter like this is enough reasonable doubt that you need to take this private member's bill seriously. Yeah, that's right. Very seriously. It is everything we need to know to consider and urge everyone in this House. And I've heard people say on the block, 1 minute I have left? Okay, I will wrap up, that people should have the right to choose. The reality is people who are in such a state of mental disorder do not have that capacity. We have to help them. And I want to leave you with this. This woman told me, her name is Elise, she's a young university student. She said, I'm so worried about this legislation to extend MAID to those with mental illness. I have struggled with mental illness, and I know with certainty that if someone had have offered that to me during my times of illness, I would not be here today. I wouldn't be getting my university degree, I wouldn't be in a happy, healthy relationship, and I wouldn't know that my life was worth living. If you are watching at home, if you have a loved one suffering, if you are suffering, your life matters and it is worth living, and it is our job to study this to the depths to determine whether we can or can't do this. And this private member's bill is the only thing that will protect mental illness and mental disorder from being accessible to MAID. So I urge every member in this House to at least pass it to committee. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The time provided for the consideration of private members' business has now expired, and the order is dropped to the bottom